dear guest, Rachna Khare, and November is National Child Safety and Protection Month, a time to reflect on how we can make safety a reality for all our kids, right?
Yes, yes. I love that.
Yes. So Rachna is here to discuss why talking to your kids about healthy relationships and sex is critical to keeping them safe. So let's get started.
Yeah, correct.
What are healthy relationships, and are they specific to intimate or romantic partnerships?
Such a great question. And, I love that we're including this conversation as part of the National Child Safety Month. Because I think when people think of safety, you think of physical things.
Right,
Yes.
like your helmet, the
Yes,
violin.
exactly.
Yeah.
And so this is such a critical part to safety because it's
Yes.
about all of the many relationships in your life. And so the answer to the first question is no, healthy relationships are not just limited to intimate partner relationships or romantic relationships or dating, because all of that can obviously come at different ages. But healthy relationships teaching starts really at day one. So it's about relationships with siblings, parents, community members, friends, neighbors. It's really everything. And I like that about healthy relationships because the rules apply to really anyone that you have a relationship with. So it becomes one of those things that when we start to think about healthy relationships, it can become ingrained in our values. And then it can lead to the prevention of domestic violence in the future and really help end that cycle. I mean, we need to teach our kids to be able to end the cycle of domestic violence.
Yes, for sure. So why do kids need to learn about healthy relationships?
Otherwise, they're not going to know how to navigate relationships, right? So as parents, and I'm not a parent, but I'm a cool aunt, so I'll take that, I'll wear that crown. But as parents and as adults who have influence over young people, they're looking at us, right, on how to navigate relationships with their classmates, with their parents, with their siblings, and then in the future with the people that they date, with their spouses, with their partners, and with their own children.
Right.
So it's so important to model that. And if you can't model it, I mean, some people are in unhealthy relationships. It doesn't mean that you still can't give some of those lessons.
Right.
The best case scenario is that you can model healthy relationships to your kids through your relationship with your partner, your spouse, their mother, their father, even if that's in a co-parenting relationship. But if you're not able to do that because of unhealthy dynamics within your own family, it's all about conversations. And either way, it takes having open conversations with kids. And it's important because this is going to help them avoid unhealthy relationships in the future.
Right.
And that's going to help them be more successful in life. They're going to have higher income potential. They're going to do better in school. They're going to have better physical and mental wellness. All of that is related to your social sphere and the relationships in your life.
Right. But so here's a question, like as parents, so we are trying to read a book on how not to lose your with your kids, right?
Yeah.
So that's just one way we're trying to get a resource so that our relationship with our kids, like they don't remember us as moms who went crazy.
Yeah. Yeah.
So like where do they, like how do you learn yourself as a parent? Like
what a great question. Yeah. And so we were talking about this pre-show is that many of us, our generation, we didn't get these lessons growing up. And that is because generationally within our culture, all of these topics are so silenced, so taboo. We have this beautiful opportunity now to get these conversations started and maybe flip that script, instead of being so silent about it, let's be vocal about it the way we're vocal about a lot of other things in our community and our culture. And to get that information, there's so many wonderful resources out there. I will say Daya is one of those great resources. And we
Yes.
just recently completed our Healthy Relationships and Safe Sex Toolkit. I will
Awesome.
put that to the screen. This is a special toolkit that's created just for young adults who attend our Healthy Relationships training.
Okay.
We also are creating the same thing, one that goes side by side for parents.
Yeah.
So that they can also attend trainings and
that.
learn about
Yeah.
this. Daya's website has tons of information about healthy relationships,
Yeah.
but so do a lot of other places. There's a website called loveisrespect.org. It is my go-to and favorite website around healthy relationships. It's geared at young adults and geared at parents. And it makes the information really digestible and easy to understand. You'll find that once you start reading information about healthy relationships, that it tends to be stuff that we may have in the past thought, oh, well, this is in the most ideal situation. It would be like this. But actually, it can be a reality. Like, it's not about, oh, you never have conflict with the people that you love, with your parents, with your siblings, with your spouse, with your boyfriends, girlfriends, friends. It's not about that. It's about your conflict is always grounded in respect, that there's always equality, that there's always trust. So really, those are kind of the main three components, and that there's always autonomy, that even like at any age, your body, including your emotions, belong to you.
Yeah.
So it's on you as to what you want to share and offer to other people in relationships.
Wow,
I really believe that like just us as parents, the relationships that we have with our spouse or significant other, that is an example for our children.
Yeah.
And how we communicate with each other and how we show respect for each other. And I feel like that's an important thing. That's where the kids also learn
Yeah,
from, right?
it's like everyone, you can't think that your relationship, if your relationship with your spouse or co-parent is in a silo or in a bubble that your children can't see. In children who witness domestic violence, they're 4 times more likely to either become victims themselves or become abusers, or abuse others, or both at some point in their life. And that right there is the statistic that is the most sobering. 4 times more likely. And so even if you are, and there's many people, 1 in 3 women will experience domestic violence. So there's many people that are in unhealthy or toxic relationships. If you have children that have to witness that, you have to take that extra step to pull them aside and say, I know what you're seeing looks this way, but let me tell you what my dreams for your relationship are. Let me tell you how you can help set your expectations higher, and letting them know that like what is happening to me is not okay. We're in this moment because of very grown-up reasons, but that doesn't mean that this has to be the future that you see.
Oh, wow.
It's a hard conversation, though. We'll talk about that.
Yes. So is sex education curriculum in school sufficient in preparing our kids?
So because I haven't been in public schools in like 25 years, I don't know. You all with children, and I don't remember how old your kids are, but have they started, we talked a little bit about them learning about body autonomy, where kind of no-no zones are, but are either of your kids in an age where they're at actual like sex education? Mine happened in health class, and it was pretty abstinence-based, but I don't know what you all experienced.
I feel like in 5th grade they learned about certain like just changes in your body.
Sure,
I don't think it was about
the puberty changes.
Exactly.
Yeah,
But I don't
that's
think
what
it was
happened for us in 5th grade too, but I don't think they've gone through sex education.
No.
And if
I
there's
don't think-
anyone on the Facebook Live or anyone listening that was interested in calling in and telling us maybe their experiences with teenagers experiencing, learning about sex education, we'd love to hear it. My thing is that there's a lot of barriers at school too, and school, again, with silos, school can't be the only place.
Yeah,
so regardless of whether you feel as a parent that the sex education happening at your child's school is appropriate or effective enough, you've got to understand that school is just one part of their life.
Yes.
So what are you teaching them at home? What are they learning from the media, TV shows, songs, movies? And then, what are they learning from their friends, right?
Yes.
And from the internet. right?
Yeah.
So there's all these other places. And so I would say, even if schools are doing the very best that they can with the resources that they have and with the limitations that they may have, it's on us, the whole community, to start getting that information more publicly out there so that it's at children's fingertips. Highly sexual content is at kids' fingertips on the internet.
Absolutely.
And so, and that, that's one thing that can be positive, but can we also supplement whatever's out there with like the education around bodily autonomy, healthy relationships, and your rights as a human being over your choices that you make?
Yeah, and it's funny because we were just having that conversation before the show about like shows like Gossip Girl, and you were telling
the shows we love.
Yeah, we love, and we
90210 we talked about,
and we thought those relationships were healthy.
Well, those become the model.
Yes.
I think there's like a great line. I don't want to mess up the quote. There's a great line from a movie, the movie American President from like the 90s. I love a good 90s rom-com. But he says, when people are thirsty enough, they'll look at a mirage and they'll drink the sand.
Yeah.
And so whatever we see, that becomes like this thing that imprints on us as like, oh, and then we're seeing it with these beautiful people.
Yes.
And so it becomes aspirational.
Yes.
And so I think it's totally fine. People who know me well know that I'm a big horror movie fan. That's my favorite genre. And
You're friends with Sasha.
yes. And so I think it's fine to consume the entertainment that entertains you, but also be grounded in the reality of like what your life should look like and be. And if you start doing that work, at the age of 15, that's great. But like, can we help kids start doing that work at the age of 2 or 3?
Yeah, absolutely. Because I mean, this Saturday I was helping out with something, and these beautiful girls, and they go all out for service. So it was a service community thing, and they were talking to me and one of the other ladies who were the only ones married there, right? So they're like, is there something like this perfect guy? And me and my friend were like, there is nothing like a
just like there's no such thing as a perfect person, right?
Yeah,
I mean, we're all
going to perfect.
Yeah.
So we're like, if you're looking for Mr. Perfect, honey, you are in big trouble.
But also, I think the other message that especially our daughters get are this, and we talked about this pre-show too. We should have an extra podcast of our pre-show.
Yes, we should.
It's like uncensored.
Yes.
We talked about this pre-show as well, that women are often, whether it's through because historically this was the case, right? Women weren't able to work. They weren't able to earn income.
Right.
They weren't able to be independent. And so this is imprinted in our culture that women are supposed to take care of the family, of the home. Times are different now. This responsibility, I'm sorry, it lies on everybody. And even if you are a stay-at-home mom, stay-at-home wife, it doesn't mean that you're supposed to be working 24 hours a day, and it doesn't mean that emotional lift of having relationships with your kids is all on you.
Yeah.
The working parent is also, once you make a decision to be in a marriage, to have a kid, you have taken on the responsibility of having a relationship with that person, not just a biological relationship.
Right. Wow, that's beautiful.
I love that.
Why are we so uncomfortable talking to our kids about dating and sex? And I'm one of them.
Yeah, tell me why.
I
would be too. With me, it's different because I don't ever want to overstep what somebody's parents are telling them.
Right.
But with your own kids, what are some of the barriers that you will face? Besides the general awkwardness.
I think it's just awkward, and also, like you said, where we come from, right? Yeah. We've never had this relationship
kind of conversations with our parents.
With our parents. But now we are trying to navigate this new, parenting. We are trying to learn on our own and then pass it on to our kids.
Like, how would you even start?
Exactly.
Such a great question.
Yeah, how would you even start?
I would say,
I can just see my kid go like,
and what do you? And like some of us, I had parents that like talked to me about this stuff, and I was the same way. I was like, ew, so gross. Right?
Yeah.
And, because I think that, for better or for worse, that I don't think is specific to the South Asian culture. It's just nobody wants to picture. nobody wants to talk about sex with their parents.
Yeah.
Because it's awkward and it's like icky. And it's,
Yes.
And so the other ways that you can do it is really by, like, as you're watching, and me and my mom do this now, as you're watching a show together, we'll literally press pause and be like, what do you think about this relationship that we're watching right now? And, and it's easier now, right? I'm 41, and my mom's in her 70s, and so we can talk about it. But it's pretty cool to be able to do it with, like, my best friend's kids as well, who are a little bit older. One of my best friends has a daughter who's 11, and I love it. We watch TV together, and we'll press pause, and I'll say, like, what do you think about this relationship, right? We're watching To All the Boys I've Loved Before, or, whatever's on Netflix, and we will point out the good and the bad things that we see, and we'll talk about it more. So maybe it means, like, taking 2 hours to watch a 30-minute show, but your examples are there. And then also, as you see them, even in relationships with their friends, you can remind them, like, hey, if somebody is telling you to do something, you can say no. You can always choose to not do something. You always have the power to say no. And if things get difficult, you can always come home. And so teaching kids that home is a safe space, and that you as their parents will never be upset with them if they're asking you for help. I think, and that's hard, because they may be asking you for help after the fact, right? After they do things that they were technically not supposed to do. So I would encourage parents to kind of try to stretch a little bit and open your mind towards being okay with the mistakes that your kids make, and celebrating when they come to you and say, like, oops, I made this mistake, or, oh, I'm dealing with this issue and I don't know how to deal with it. Whether it's a friend forcing them to skip school, or a friend forcing them to watch a movie they don't want to watch. And really at this age, especially with young boys being exposed to pornography at very young ages on the internet, there's a lot that we can preventively talk to kids about, and say, like, the stuff that you may be watching with your friends, you may be entertained by it, it may be funny, it may be silly, but it's not real.
That's very well put, because like, that's how we grew up, right? Like, when we were watching a show, and if there was a kissing scene or whatever, we were
immediately
like,
close
our eyes. Like, it was very, like,
and I think that's my girls do that. They'll close their eyes, and I'm like,
and that I think we can't change. Like, it's just like that awkward thing, right?
So now when my kids, they know, so because I tell them, I'm like, okay, this is inappropriate, you can watch it, but in every show that you watch, there is, like,
of course,
and which is normal, right?
And I would challenge you a little bit to think, like, why do we tell kids that it's not appropriate to watch kissing? Because I think if parents watch, or if kids grow up in a home where parents show each other affection, isn't that a beautiful thing?
But it's funny you say that, because I remember my husband, in fact, we were watching something, and the girls were with us, and there was a kissing scene, and Iman and Hannah immediately closed their eyes, and Amish was like, normalize it. Don't do that. Tell them it's okay. So he was like, it's okay. You can watch this. They're just kissing, their husband and wife, and that's
beautiful.
what they do.
I love that.
It's okay. So
your husband can come here do this.
I know. I was very shocked when he said that, because I admired that. I was like, okay, you know what? Because again, going back to when we were younger, close your eyes. My dad would change the channel, like, you can't watch this, So it's
so I think things just stick, but like
for
you
sure,
said, we have to keep.
You have to unlearn it.
Unlearn it,
we have the harder job, because if we unlearn it, then our kids will never have to learn it. My sister does a brilliant job too. Like, my nephews will close their eyes because they're at that age where kissing is gross. Girls are gross. The whole thing is gross, right? But she's like, you don't have to watch it. That's fine. But know that people can kiss and it's not gross. And so that's also a simple way to kind of do
that's
that.
a very simple way where you make it normal.
And
there is nothing wrong with
and it's true. Like, even as adults, right, we'll be out and there may be people making out at a restaurant. We can also choose to look away. That is what we do. We don't like cover our eyes and run out of the restaurant. We might, but
don't look that way.
So what should you say and not say when teaching your kids about sex?
Oh, that's so good. I think the most important thing to say and to reiterate ultimately is that it is important that they hold on to their boundaries, that they establish and communicate their boundaries, and that boundaries are good. And when we're talking about boundaries, we're not just talking about physical stuff like, oh, I don't want to have sex before I'm married, or I don't want somebody to kiss me until I'm in a committed relationship with them. It's not even like those are some boundaries, right? Those are some physical boundaries, but there's also emotional boundaries. I found when talking to young adults that many times their boyfriend or girlfriend or partner will tell them that they'll say I love you very early on in the relationship. And I think we can all kind of think back to, the puppy love phases, I guess, and you say that really early. And even in those moments, I like to remind young adults and children that, like, the words I love you are also not mandatory, or I love you too. And I think we make that mistake sometimes. Like, I've done it, right? I tell my nephew, oh, I love you, and then it's like, say I love you too. And they don't have to, and so reminding them that boundaries are emotional, they're verbal, they're physical, that ultimately they are in control of their lives. That's hard for parents because you're responsible for this little life.
Yes.
But ultimately, they are going to have control over their bodies, over their hearts as they get older. And so as much as you can equip them with information on how to set boundaries, how to communicate them, you can role play it with them, practice it with them. And even when they have boundaries, I'll say some controversial things, like if they want alone time in their room, I know there are homes where it's like no closed doors. And I would push back on that and say, why? Why aren't you allowed to close your door and have alone time as a child? I do think that we've got to give our kids some more time to explore themselves, their emotions, their bodies. I think it's important. And know that that home is a safe space to be able to ask questions, ask any question. And then, when you're starting the conversation, they may not know about violence that can come from people that they love, right? Because my hope is that children are living in relationships where they aren't experiencing harm. But we need to tell them that the harm can come from the harm is more likely to come from somebody that they know. 93% of child abuse is committed for teens and children under age is committed by somebody that they know. For adults, it's 8 out of 10. 8 out of 10 sexual assaults are committed by somebody that the victim knows. For children, it's 93%. So this idea of like, don't talk to strangers, valid and great, that's a different kind of safety. We also have to tell them that it doesn't matter if it's your uncle, if it's your cousin, if it's your neighbor, your family friend, your teacher. At the end of the day, your body and your heart is yours to make decisions as you see are best. And that they can trust you as a parent, as an aunt, as a sibling. But that ultimately the decision needs to come authentically from them.
Wow. That is a pretty big conversation.
I know, and it's really hard. So I commend any parents that are like doing it in even the small ways that you can do it.
Even if you start small. So I think Sasha does a really good job because she's always talking to her girls, right?
Yes,
about
absolutely. We talk about everything.
Good.
I try to, be as open
even
with
when
them
they
as
say
possible.
it's gross, I would encourage parents and, other adults who have influence to just push back a little and say, I know it's gross, but let's talk about it for 5 minutes.
I'm going to actually hit the pause button real quick because we have to take a quick break.
Yes, we're going to be back after our quick break on 99.5 FM. Welcome back to Chai Time on 99.5 FM. We are in conversation with Rachna Khare. We're really enjoying this conversation with her about healthy relationships and sex. And I am so grateful for you being on the show because I am one of those moms that I would be like, Sam, take care of it. I'm not having this conversation.
You're not one of those moms. You're here having it. So I know you're not one of those moms.
So when and how should parents start these conversations, or should we be waiting for our kids to come and ask for it?
I think that I believe that parents should start the conversation because I believe that they should start it super young.
Yeah.
And we talked about this when kids are even like 2 or 3, reminding them that like, oh, you know, we're about to go to a Diwali party.
Yeah.
And maybe a lot of people will come up to you and ask you for hugs.
Yeah.
But remember that you don't have to hug somebody if you don't want to. And more importantly, like, don't be the parent that forces them to hug somebody they don't want to be.
Yes.
So I've been really encouraged to see that trend happening a lot. And on social media, I see a lot of moms saying they're not going to force their kids to hug relatives. And I love that. I think that's great. And then as kids get older, because it's awkward and icky, they aren't going to come to you probably, right? They're going to explore and try to find information on their own.
Yeah.
And so what I would encourage is that you bring it up in all the ways that you can. And like just at normal times, right? So maybe, you know, when you're watching TV or movies is an excellent time because you can actually like see examples. But also like if you and your husband are celebrating your anniversary and if you're doing that, you know, having cake with your kids, like maybe talking about like, hey, here are some great things about our relationship that I really love.
Yeah.
And listing some healthy things that you have in your relationship. As much as you can point out and celebrate healthy relationships, that's like that positive feedback that your children are going to be like, okay, this is normal.
Yeah.
The normal thing is not screaming and yelling at each other, but talking about the important things while still like giving each other time to talk and time to respond. You know, so not painting it this picture of like, oh, it's a fairy tale, because it's not.
No.
If people
You're
come
right.
in, both autonomous people, there's going to be disagreements.
Absolutely.
And so reminding them that like, oh, you know, I love that when I talk to your dad, we can have challenging discussions and debates, and that we can still like, we can laugh about the things that we agree on and respect the things we disagree on. And then also, as I get even older, pointing out the red flags, right?
Yeah.
So the biggest one that I'll point out is this idea that, and we talked about this pre-show too, this idea that you have got to, you know, tell your romantic partner everything about yourself, that you have to share all your secrets, that it's you and that person against the world, that, you know, 2 people become one soul, like all of that is so, it's actually so very harmful, because what happens is girls end up losing themselves in a relationship, and boys end up not being able to be as vulnerable and they're unable to ask for emotional support because they're painted as, you've got to be the protector.
Yeah.
Why?
Yeah.
You know? And so
that you can't cry, you can't show your emotions.
So teaching boys, girls, kids of all genders, non-binary kids, that like you can be, and you are all the things, that we are complex people, and that sometimes we're going to have, sometimes we're going to be the protector and the helper and the caregiver, and sometimes we're going to need help, and that you cannot count on just one person to fulfill all of your needs. You need friends, you need your siblings, you need your cousins, you need your parents, you need your coworkers. As long as those relationships and those people are healthy people who respect your boundaries, you got to make time for them. It's important to prioritize the other people in your life too. So if you see your teenage kids getting really wrapped up in their first loves, that you remind them, hey, I'm so happy that you're experiencing this and that it's like joyful and magical, but also remember that your best friendships are magic too, that your relationship with your parents is forever as well.
Yeah. Wow. I mean, I love it because I think we all remember being in our relationships, our puppy love, like you said, and you're so like into it that you seem to forget your friends and, you know, your parents.
Well, and unfortunately,
revolves
adults do that too, right?
We do. In our marriage, I think we are taught to do that in some way, in some subtle ways, because we've seen our moms do it.
Yeah.
You know,
and all of society does this, right? Think about how TV shows end. There's like a wedding series finale, and then it's happily ever after, right?
Yes.
And so I think it's important to remind kids at all ages that if you, just like anything, if you put all your eggs in one basket, if you put all of your needs in this one person, that's an impossible task for that person. It's impossible for you to simplify your complex mind in that way.
exactly.
You know, I mean, you've got to hang on, and you've got to prioritize different kinds of relationships, including the relationship you have with yourself.
Yeah.
So are you making time for your hobbies, the things that feed you, the things that you're passionate about, independently on your own? And this goes to introverts and extroverts, right? So even if you're a person who has one friend or 100 friends, knowing that you have to make time for the other people in your life as well as yourself, and be able to find peace and happiness by yourself too.
Yeah.
That's step one.
Yeah, definitely. There's so much of learning. Wow.
And it's an ongoing process. I'm not
is.
too great at it. Was interesting. It was like after I got divorced, I'm a divorcee, and I learned through that process that actually, like, just because you get married doesn't mean everything is going to be fantastic and you feel totally fulfilled.
Absolutely.
And so you have to, learn, and especially women in our community need to learn that it's not about sacrifice. We shouldn't be sacrificing over and over again. Should we be giving back to people? Absolutely. Giving into our relationships. But you can't do it authentically until you give to yourself first and make sure that your needs
yourself
are.
in the process. You're
More than that, don't just forget yourself. Really pour into yourself.
Yes.
You should always be your number one priority.
Absolutely.
Yeah, and that's
It's hard to do.
Yeah, it's hard to do. It's easier.
I'm really good at it. As I mentioned, I'm also very good at prioritizing myself.
Good.
And sometimes people will say, I'll joke and be like, oh yeah, I'm really good at being selfish. Because I think that's the way this behavior has been socialized as it's selfish. It's not. It's necessary.
It is.
It's yourself first, right? Mm-hmm. So are there certain topics parents should talk to their daughters about, and what about their sons?
I would love to live in a world where you could tell both kids the exact same thing.
Yes.
But unfortunately, there is, generation ancient patriarchy that is that's hurting hurting people of all genders. So with girls, reminding them that their choices are their own, that they have to prioritize themselves, that being strong is a good thing, and that leaning into vocalizing what you want and what you don't want is part of being a strong woman. I think that's important. Reminding boys that there's a lot of peer pressure out there for boys to never show emotions, but that vulnerability and showing emotions is an attractive quality to women, because it is, right? I mean, there's also a reason why there's the trope of, oh, this man needs me, let me go save him. We're so starved for men with emotions that we're willing to go down into a hole with somebody, But it doesn't need to be that way, right? So teaching boys that showing emotions, that asking for help is actually a really brave thing to do, and and that's a great way to show bravery, and then teaching children of all genders that sometimes you're gonna be able to give help, and sometimes you're going to need help, and both of those things can exist. And then if children are still struggling with gender identity, reminding them that it's okay, and it is hard, right? We have made these genders so binary that of course there's people struggling. I don't know that I can be girly and frilly and princessy and cook and clean and want babies. Okay, that's not all there is to being a woman. And boys who are I don't really like sports, that's okay, right? And so they're going to hear from the world that is, that you're not a real man, or you're a tomboy for girls. They're going to hear all these things, but reminding them, making home that safe space to be that's just noise, and the noise can hurt. Validate that the noise can hurt. Kids are mean. Bullying is hard. But here's a safe place at home where we are going to celebrate you in all the ways that you are you. And that this will pass. This time will pass. And instead, how can we find friends and community that will also celebrate you exactly how you are?
I love that.
Yeah, that's amazing. If your child asks you questions about sex or intimate relationships and you do not know how to answer, what do you do?
What do you do? So I have the answer to that, but what would you do?
I don't know. I would come up with some example or something that at that point in time.
So I think just like how people have like a hurricane preparedness plan, because this conversation is awkward and strange and can come up whenever, and we want to have the right answers, just to kind of have tools in your toolkit, right? So reaching out to Daya for healthy relationships training is a great way to do that, because you'll end up with this amazing toolkit that gives you bulleted lists of the red flags and bulleted lists of suggested things you can say.
So quick question. So this training is just for parents or kids or?
Both. So our training right now is healthy relationships. You can bring it to, we've done it with like Girl Scout troops. We've done it with like college dance teams. People of both genders, high school groups, high school clubs. So all of those places, and we're working on our parents training too.
Okay.
And so, but right now, I mean, if parents need help today, calling Daya and getting connected with our outreach team is a wonderful way to do it. You can also, I would highly recommend loveisrespect.org as a wonderful website where you can get all these tools. And give yourself a lot of grace. Like, if you don't know the answer, it makes sense. Why would you know the answer off the top of your head? If your kid asks you about, like, you know, how a car works, you'd probably have to look that up too, right? So giving yourself that space and that grace, and telling your child, like, oh, you know, I don't know the answer to that. Let's look it up together, you know, or even, if you feel like you need to come back to it, that's fine. But making them part of that, like, researching process could be interesting and a way to bond as well.
Yes. Okay.
And it makes you more human.
Right?
Yes.
We all think our parents are like not human beings. Yeah. And they are.
I'm just thinking about it because a lot of times now when we don't know the answer, we're like, okay, Alexa.
Hey, Google.
So what happens if we ask Alexa this question?
I don't know. I'll do it when I get home.
How do you know if your child is safe or not safe in their relationship?
That's a great question. So this is all about the red flags, and we hope that parents know them, that children know them, that siblings know them, because it's really on us, for all of us, to know these red flags.
Yes.
So some of the red flags, my number one is possessiveness and jealousy, because those are the things that can be turned around as being really romantic. And, like, they are not romantic.
No.
Being jealous, being possessive, being overly protective, that is actually not a sign of caring for somebody. That is a sign of thinking that they belong to you. And so that's control. And so those things are red flags, right? And so, again, if this is coming from a boy to a girl, I don't want to demonize this boy either. Because of the way we've been taught masculinity, he may not even want to be this overprotective knight in shining armor, but he's told he's supposed to be this way, right? So if you have boys, or if you have girls, or if you have, you know, whatever gender your child is, reminding them that jealousy and possessiveness, that's about control. That's not about love. If people put your child down, teasing as a guise of a joke, like there's some couples that have really biting humor with each other. It's fine if it works for them, but I would argue that at the age of like 14, 15, teasing each other needs to come from such a place of equality and love that it's probably best to just like kind of take that off the table for now, especially putting you down. So there's a difference between teasing you because you have a little something on your in your teeth versus being like, oh my gosh, she dresses like this because she's poor. You know, like there's a difference. Explosive tempers. It's actually like, I know people, you know, monumental point here. You can be in a relationship where there's never any yelling. And that should be the goal. I understand that yelling happens because all of us were socialized into having these kind of thinking that arguments need to look a certain way, but arguments can happen in a tone of voice that is respectful. So even as you're doing it with your children, having conflict with your spouse, trying to like lower the temperature and de-escalate the volume and the temper is an important thing. And then, you know, along with possessiveness and jealousy, I think the next huge red flag is isolation. If you see your kids no longer engaging in their hobbies, no longer hanging out with their friends, no longer involved in the school clubs that they want to be in, always texting with this one person, I know they could be in that honeymoon phase where it feels really good, but you have to do your best to point it out and just remind them like, hey, how about you spend the day hanging out with me? How about I take you and your best friend to the movies? You know, give them opportunities to reconnect with their friendships. And you can be really blunt about it. You know, I see that you're really isolating yourself from your friends and your family and your clubs. And I get it that you're really happy in this relationship, but you've got to find some balance for it to be a healthy relationship. And so that you're not just left with this only one person in your life.
Yeah. And that is so important. I love that you gave a list of things. So, you know, even if it's a few of these things. For parents also to keep their eyes and ears out.
Absolutely.
Right?
And as I get into college, you'll see like people sharing social media accounts. That's a red flag. Having access to each other's cell phones and passwords and emails. There's a time where that may be the case when you're married, when you're sharing a household and finances. When you're in college just dating each other, why? You know, what's the why? So I would explore, if you see something that kind of makes your ears perk up, think about what is the why, and maybe put that on your child, like, why? Why does he have to have your password? You know, why does he tell you what to wear? Why does he have to, you know, tell you where to go or who to hang out with? You know, those signs, you're past red flags. If someone's telling your child what to wear, who they can be friends with, or where they can go, they are in an abusive relationship now.
Yeah, and it's time to stop.
Regardless of how sweet this person may seem, they are being controlled now. And it's easy to fall into that. I mean, there's a reason why 1 in 3 people have found themselves in an abusive relationship, because our society makes it real easy to say, oh, this is normal, this is love.
Wow. So what should you do if your child is a victim of dating violence?
You should do your best to validate their situation, right? So if you are seeing, you have to be 100% on their side. I'm going to tell you, if you are seeing the abuse and they are not seeing it yet, or they are not ready to leaving that relationship, as much as it hurts, you have to be okay with that answer for now. And how can you, I know, and how can you, how can you keep them safe, right? Like, let's focus on their safety. Because the thing that you don't want, the thing that will be the worst, is if they totally push you out of this situation. And at a certain age, kids absolutely can do that. They can absolutely secretly keep dating this person. So to say at the very first moment, this relationship is over right now, is probably not, you know, I think back at...
That would be the first reaction,
I know.
right?
Mine too. Oh my gosh.
Sure.
Mine too. And even with our adult clients right now, I'm like, leave now. You know? But you have to understand that, like, they're under this guise of, I love this person. So if somebody told you right now to leave the person you love, and you didn't think that you wanted to do that, like, would you do that? No, right? And so saying, like, okay, what would it be like if you were single? What would it be like if you all weren't together? And really ask these open-ended questions to help explore with them, right? I'm not telling you that you need to leave this person right now. It makes me very scared that he or she tells you what to do or hurts you. But just imagine with me, what could it be like if you weren't dating this person? What are the things that you could have in your life again? What were the things that would be missing from your life? Could we get those missing things from somebody else? Maybe not today, maybe not tomorrow, but someday. What can you fill in, right? Oh, he gives me so much attention. Okay, well, do you think that you're missing attention from us, your parents? So really trying to have those open-ended questions and conversations with somebody without putting these really strict mandates. I remember King Titan in Little Mermaid and how he went into Ariel's trove and just broke everything. And what did
Oh,
she
yeah, I
do?
remember that.
She left.
She gave up her voice to get some legs,
Yeah.
right? This is not what we want our kids
No.
doing.
No.
You know? And so she gave up her voice to be with a
Yeah.
dude, right?
Yes, she did.
And this is not what we want our kids to do. So really exploring with them what leaving this relationship, what joy that could lead to. Don't you miss, what would it be like if you got to just do all the things you used to do? And reminding them, what are the qualities that you miss about them?
Yeah.
Oh, I miss that you were so open about and opinionated. I miss your opinions. I miss that you would challenge us on
Yeah.
political topics. I miss that you would, have an extra serving of dinner or dessert. A lot of this comes down to, oh, I'm losing weight because so-and-so says I need to. I miss the way you used to love birthday
Yeah.
cake,
Yeah.
So putting the positive spin on the qualities that they are now missing. Because I'll tell you about domestic abuse. Once somebody is controlling you, you have to give up so much of yourself. And those things are always missed by the people that you love. And so reminding your friends and your children the things that you miss about them.
Yeah.
And obviously at a certain point, if there is forced rape, rape is always forced. If there's forced sex, if there's physical abuse, even emotional abuse, there are times where, yes, for the safety of your kids, you may have to really put down the law and get them out of that relationship. I implore parents to include an expert when you do that.
Yeah.
A place, calling Daya, and while we don't work with children right now, we can get you to the experts that can help you, and we can walk you through the plan. Don't do it on your own.
Yeah.
Don't do it on your own.
Yeah.
Because especially if you're about to take the drastic step of telling your child that you are now going to control what they do, and that may be in their best interest.
Yeah.
Please, please, please involve an expert, a therapist, an outside party, whether that's a school counselor or a private therapist or an advocate at Daya.
Yeah.
Bring an expert into this conversation so that it does not become you versus your child. You don't, because that's just pouring into that mentality of, oh, it's me and my person against the world.
Yes.
Do not become an enemy to your children.
That's something deep, right?
Yes,
and
it is.
It's scary.
It really
because
is.
we have kids, and you just hope that you never have to come in that situation.
Be on their
right?
side.
Yeah.
Say that, like, hey, everything I'm telling you is because I'm on your side.
Yeah.
I miss when you were this outgoing, funny, ate 3 desserts, wore what you want, went to the movies with your friends person.
Yeah.
I miss that person.
Yeah.
And so it is, because the truth of the matter is they miss that person too.
Yeah. And just having these conversations can be so overwhelming. So what resources are available to guide parents?
Yeah, there's a ton of resources online, and I will say some of them are great and some of them are not great, right? So you have to know what angle you want to come at this from. If you are a person who is very strong in your faith, you need to think about how your faith can be a part of this conversation, right?
Yeah.
There's a lot of people who don't allow dating due to kind of like religious reasons. An absolutely fair decision to make, but what are you going to do when your kid is dating secretly, right?
Yeah.
Can there be people in your faith community that can help you guide these conversations? If you want to come from a purely health perspective, can you involve your doctor, your therapist in these conversations? So make sure whatever lens that you want to put on this, and you can put multiple lenses on it, we hope you do, that you pull in different people, and then also that your friends are going to be great support to you. So as mothers and fathers, you can ask you can ask parents that you admire. That might be your parents too, right?
Right.
How did they deal with this? And that doesn't mean to blueprint it and do the exact thing, but take the pieces that resonate with you, that sound like they're going to work with you and your child. And this ultimately comes from having a strong relationship, an open, honest, authentic relationship with your child, so that you know, like the back of your hand, what is going to resonate with them. You know them like they are part of you, because they are.
They are, yes. Yeah, and you know what's best for them, or what are those
And
little
let
things
them-
that work.
Let them tell you what's best for them too.
right.
Let them tell you what they're looking for. Asking them, what what do you see in this person in a non-judgmental way? Tell me the things you like about them.
Yeah.
You'll get to see, okay, oh, I like that they make me laugh. Well, doesn't your friend Sasha make you laugh too? So what else is it about this person? Really kind of make them do the work.
Yeah. Yeah. Instead of giving them all the answers. If you're under 18 and you're curious about sex and intimate relationships, but you don't know what to talk to your parents, where can you go to learn?
So I say with this side, I think the internet is a very scary place, and it can give you a lot of information, but please know that a lot of that information is just coming from like fake experts. So if you are a child that needs help on this under the age of 18, I would 100% say go to loveisrespect.org. It is a website that was built only for kids under 18. And so it's got their, parents, it's a great resource for parents too, but the lens it wears is for you. The person under the age of 18. And if you're afraid to talk to your parents about it, can you talk to another trusted adult? Is there an aunt or uncle in your life, an older sibling, a cousin? And then maybe they can help strategize with you on how you want to talk to your parent about this. And I will plug Daya's healthy relationship trainings here as well. So if you're under the age of 18, if you're in high school, if you're part of a club, we would love to bring a healthy relationships training to your club and school. And with our training comes how to bring this up with your parents. And so that's our website is another great place, and calling our helpline on how to get some tips and tools on how to talk to your parents. I will say from the get-go, Daya is in no way, shape, or form trying to take the role of a parent. We have an executive director who does not want kids, so trust me, I don't want all the kids of the South Asian community. And so with that, I would say what we want to do is be a partner to parents, because we understand, and to children. We understand this is an awkward, strange, and necessary conversation to have. So let us partner with you on it, and we'll get through the awkwardness together. We're not going to say, oh, we'll make it so academic and non-awkward. No. But can't we be awkward together? We can. It's your family. It's your loved ones. If we can't be awkward and vulnerable with each other, who else is there, right? And so if you need help navigating those conversations, to give us a call and speak with a member of our outreach team who would absolutely be happy to go through one of these healthy relationship trainings with you all.
Okay, awesome. I can't believe it's
I know, I can feel it.
Right?
I can feel it coming to an end when I have 20 million other things to talk about.
But this was an amazing conversation.
So glad.
An eye-opener, especially for us as parents. I feel like I've learned a lot, and it's also on Facebook Live, so anyone who missed it or needs to go back, which I know I'm going to go back to, you have that resource right there, so please take advantage, because it's important. It's for our kids. So thank you so much, our listeners. We'll see you next week, same time, same place. Bye-bye.